Hello, this is Megan Wigton, Assistant Director in the Office of Student Success in the First Year Experience. Welcome to I think your third staff training for the summer of 25. We're so glad that y'all are a part of our team. And I want to discuss with you today some of the aspects and expectations of peer mentorship. All right. Today I'm going to do a little review on our office structure. Matthew did a great video a couple videos ago of that overview, but I just want to kind of review for undergrad student staff who we are and what our titles are and kind of our scope of our job. And then I'm going to talk about some characteristics of a peer mentor and also some of our expectations for you as mentors. All right, quick refresher on the presentation you had received a couple weeks ago. There are several student employment positions within our office, five in particular. So if you are employed in our office, you have one of these titles. The first is office assistant. So in the first year experience office, you would report to Lindsay Auden, who is our administrative assistant. If you are an office assistant in the first gen center, you'd report to the assistant director of first gen, which is Damien Boution. And if you are an office assistant in STEP, then you'd report to me in the staff office. And most of the folks who are working as office assistants are kind of front desk receptionist folks who are greeting people and also working on general administrative projects in the office. Our first year peer mentors report to our brand new first year program coordinator who is newly hired. We're just wrapping up that search process. I'm very excited to welcome someone new to our team. And that person will supervise all of our first year peer mentors this year. So those of you who are returning, you were used to having a graduate student as your point person. This year you will be reporting directly to a professional staff member. Exploratory peer leaders in the office. And let me just say the first year peer mentors work on outreach and follow up, and a new initiative we're focusing on called Make a Meeting with a Mentor, and do a lot of our success series and different initiatives within the office. Our exploratory peer leaders report to our assistant director of exploratory, which is Carolyn Tracy, and they are particularly supporting our exploratory students in many ways. We often call these folks peer leaders, just plain peer leaders. The STEP peer mentors report to me, the Assistant Director of Coaching and Mentoring, and they support our STEP students. They each have a caseload of students. And then our program coordinators, there are different places where our program coordinators are housed. So the Emerging Scholars Program has two program coordinators. The Levita Scholars Programs has one or two, depending on the year. And then our First Generation Student Success Center, like one to three, depending on the year. And these program coordinators, similar to their title, are really about program implementation and kind of making sure the larger programmatic sort of running the program things happen within each of these three programs. So this is all the student staff in our office, and you should fit somewhere in here. And if you're like, I don't remember which one I am actually hired to do, then please reach out to your supervisor and we'll clarify for you. So listen, even if you are an office assistant or certainly a peer leader or a program coordinator, no matter your role, you are always a mentor in this office. And that's why we have this presentation. We want to focus in on why these characteristics and traits are important for any student leader in the first year experience office, any student employee. Nice quote here. Our chief want in life is somebody who will make us do what we can. So the whole purpose of all of the staff in our office, office assistants, all the way through program coordinators, is really about empowering our students and helping them see more in themselves than they might currently see. All right. So, what are some of the characteristics and traits of a peer mentor? And these were some of the things we were looking for in you as we were hiring you for these roles. Some of those include, we're going to talk about these seven today: a role model, somebody with a sense of care for others, obviously, but students in particular, knowledge of campus resources, very important for this particular role, proactive, collaborative, a good listener, and someone with strong communication skills. We're going to talk about each of those in the slides ahead. So, a role model. we understand everybody's college students. You guys are still figuring this road out on your own. And sometimes when we talk about being a role model to first year students and others, that can be kind of overwhelming. I think what it really is about is just that you are working hard to make, the right choices for your college journey. So we look for people who have that mentality and looking for somebody who has an attitude of diligence and commitment to their time here in college, that they're wanting to get involved, they're wanting to invest in the things they're doing, that they care about their education and education in general. So looking for that sort of attitude of diligence, and that will apply to the work that you do here in our office, that you'll come in and you'll be diligent in the work that you do. Looking for somebody who models care and respect for other people, particularly people who are different than they are. And also just respect place and, the office space that you're going to be in, but also events that you might be a part of and who we might be collaborating with, that there is a care and respect for people that you work with and interact with. And also looking for people who are engaged in academic and co-curricular activities. And the reason for that is because we know research says over and over again that if you are involved in something during your time in college, that you have a much more rich college experience and you're more likely to make it through college. And so we do really feel like a role model for our first year students are students who are involved in things on campus, going to events, maybe participating in a group or an organization. So we look for you as our employees to be people who are engaged on campus. This one's a really big one, maybe the most important, right? The sense of care in general. So, expressing genuine care for your mentees, if that's how your role is structured, but also just for any students that might come into the office, all students coming in, even as an office assistant, somebody coming in with an issue or a challenge or being particularly frustrated, your ability to approach that situation with empathy is really important as a student leader in our office, as an always mentor in our office. And then also attentive to the needs of students and peers. So just kind of being mindful, being watching, even reporting back to us, hey, I hear a lot of students on campus talking about this particular issue. I wonder if there's something first year experience can do for that. Those are great traits of our student workers and of mentors in general. Following up on questions and concerns, so checking in and checking back. A lot of times, an issue is really heightened for a student. They'll come in, we'll be able to direct them and point them in the right direction, and the problem is solved. They feel great. Sometimes, though, there's a need to sort of loop back and just double check. And even if the issue is resolved and you loop back and they tell you, oh yeah, that's okay, there's a real sense of care to have a mentor or an office assistant or somebody say, hey, I know we talked about this a week ago, and I just wanted to make sure that that was okay. That lets them know you're still in their mind. You weren't just a person that came through and you didn't remember their face, but you were really attentive and careful with their concerns. Also looking for people who make themselves available. And this is definitely helpful for our students, like our step mentors who have kind of a different way of different modality in their work role. So just making sure that your schedule is there's availability within your schedule to meet with your students. And also when you have your shift in the office, if that's the kind of role that you have, that you're available, that yes, your projects are important, but that students coming in and their needs are the highest and biggest priority. And then acting as a relief and a support to students, not burdening them with your own struggles. If a student comes in saying, oh, I'm so overwhelmed by school, and then you turn around and say, oh my gosh, me too. Let me tell you about all my things. Trying not to do that with the students, but listening, taking on, trying to be a help is most important. A mentor is someone who sees more talent and ability within you than you see in yourself and helps bring it out of you. I really appreciate this quote. This is really what we're all about in terms of empowerment with our mentorship in the office. Another thing that's really important is knowledge of campus resources, and you were able to view Damien Boution's presentation on our most frequently used offices and why. So we're looking for you to have a general familiarity with the purpose and location of most of these frequently referred to offices on campus. The more offices that you're aware of on campus, the better. You'll be able to do your job better because those are the kinds of questions students have. And not just knowing, okay, this is where the Student Nav Center is located complicated, but do you have experience with a staff member in that office that was positive? And you could make a positive referral to say, hey, why don't you go to this office? I met with so and so. They were great. They helped me out. Keeping those names in mind is also helpful for our students. And then having a basic understanding of our general education requirements. Most of you as upper class students should have a good grasp of this, majors, minors, who to talk to, when advising period is. We're going to give you a lot of this information too as the time comes closer, but it wouldn't hurt for you to just familiarize yourself a bit with the general education requirements at Salem State because those questions come up for first year students often. And then you know the general structure of kind of where we're at, that we are within the Office of Student Success, and that there's different divisions sort of within higher education. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at training coming up. We are looking for peer mentors who are proactive. So this, like it sounds, is really about actively reaching out. It's really easy to kind of freeze if somebody comes into the office or a mentee reaches out to you and asks you a question you don't know the answer to. It's easy to say, I don't know. You'll have to ask, the success coaches or Lindsay or somebody else, Damien. Um, we're looking for people who are willing to say, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to find out, right? And seek out the answer from your supervisor or do some searching on Ask the Viking on our website, and be the kind of person that will not just say, I don't know, and shuffle the student along, but do what you can to help answer the question and to help meet the need. So, also part of being proactive, particularly for some of our mentors who are managing a caseload, this it's really important that you are the one reaching out, especially initially. There will come a point when students will see you as a resource and start to reach out. But initially, it really is about the mentor reaching out saying, do you have any questions? I wanted to give you this information. I hope you're doing okay. Being proactive is very, very important in the mentor relationship up front because you're the one responsible for building that rapport and building that relationship from the beginning. Once that foundation is established, that rapport is established, then you have a more reciprocal where they ask you questions, you ask them questions, but you have to be proactive in creating that from the beginning. Thinking ahead and predicting challenges and issues that you might observe. So, as you're in connection with a lot of these students, as you're mindful of kind of what's going on in the academic year, be proactive in your role and think about, okay, you know what? I think registration is coming up, and that might offer some unique challenges for students in these ways. So that you're prepared, you might bring things to the office saying, I noticed this, and I want to make sure that we're prepared too. So, that's another aspect of proactivity in your role. That you are collaborative. This is definitely a characteristic of a peer mentor that we're looking for. Happy to pitch in whenever help is needed. We have a million and one events going on through this office, many different, initiatives and programs that are doing different things, even at the same time. So we're looking for folks who are really ready to be like, hey, yep, I have some time. I can pitch in. I can help with that. I've got nothing going on during my shift or whatever. I'll do that. I'll be helpful. That is really, really important to our office functioning. Um, and also just being a resource to other student staff when you have ideas or when they need support or advice or kind of kicking around. What do you think of this, presentation? What do you think of this event idea that you would be willing to share your thoughts and ideas and give some input? And then you are making sure that your projects are the best too, that you're reaching out for that collaboration because you're getting other opinions on your projects as well. Being a good listener, being an active listener. I'm sure you've all heard of that term before, but that's really a hallmark of a strong mentor and a good student leader. So willingness to really pay attention and not just pay attention to respond to the answer, but just listening, right? So this is a nice little acronym build that can help you develop this skill out more strongly as you're working with students. So pay attention to your body language. Are you really closed off? Are your arms crossed? Or your your legs crossed? Are you looking away? Is your body sort of positioned away from the student, or do you have an open body? Do you have your arms down? Are you relaxed? Are you nodding, paying attention? That is indicating active listening. Are you understanding what the student is saying? Or are you thinking maybe about that paper that's due later on in the afternoon, and you're worried about it, right? So you can indicate you understand by repeating things back to the student, saying, okay, I'm hearing you say that you're worried about your financial aid because of these reasons, and you want to talk to somebody and you want to know where to go. That kind of demonstration of understanding is active listening and very important. Be very, very careful not to interrupt. We are all really inclined, when we feel the moment is right, to insert information into a conversation. And one of the biggest gifts you can give, especially to first year students who are often feeling insecure and unsure about coming and seeking help, is just to listen, to not interrupt, but to hear the full story and then offer your information. And this is a skill that takes some developing. So just encourage you to practice that even before you start your shift over the summer, listening to fully listen without interrupting, and then sharing what your ideas or thoughts or advice might be after the thought is complete from that person. Looking them in the eye is a wonderful way to indicate you are actively listening to a person. I say this, and I'm also mindful that there are cultural differences, and sometimes our neurodivergent population isn't comfortable with having you look in the eyes. So you can ask the student that, or just kind of gauge if you notice the student isn't reciprocating eye contact, then don't feel that that is as important. But by and large, that is a great way to show active listening for many of our students. So just be mindful in observing whether the student is receiving that in a positive way or whether it might be better to take a different approach. Don't judge. It's really easy to think in your head, well, this person's a hot mess, as they're sharing whatever's going on. Just take a step back. You don't have to solve the situation. It's not on you to judge it, or you don't know all the things that are going on in their life. They're sharing this one piece of it. So just really try hard to sort of check your judgments at the door and move forward with empathy when you're working with students. So, building rapport, by remembering things about the student is so important. So, maybe a student will share, particularly for those of you who have caseloads and you'll be repeatedly working with a student, they might share something small about their cat, or something. And that's actually a big piece of who they are. And so, if you remembered that and looped back a month later, that speaks a lot to the student about they listened to me, they heard me, I feel known. So those kind of things are really helpful. And then, of course, and we'll talk about this in a minute, maintain confidentiality. People will share many things with you. You have, now as a student leader and as a mentor, you have access to information that others don't. And there's responsibility that goes with that. So maintaining confidentiality, even when it might be juicy gossip that connects to something else you're involved in on campus or somebody else you need to maintain your professionalism by keeping those things confidential. What I've learned that people will forget what you say, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's hugely connected to the active listening piece and the empathy piece when it comes to being a mentor. Making a person feel heard, known, and appreciated, that whatever they're going through, you're willing to be here, you're willing to help because they're valuable. Couple more here to discuss. So, strong communication. This is going to be particularly important for some of our mentors who are doing consistent presentations, online student success presentations, but this is important for all of us. In all of your text, email, and social media posts, you want to be double checking clarity. You want to be double checking accuracy. One of the most loving things we can do for our students is be as accurate as possible, is take the extra time to make sure whatever it is that we're saying is correct information, because it is just, you know, disorienting to have information that from a source that you think is trusted now not be accurate. And we all make mistakes, but as best we can, do the best you can to get accurate and clear information out and communicate it. When you're talking with students, speak in a clear and confident voice. If you have a soft spoken voice and you know that about yourself, be mindful when a student comes into the office or if you're interacting with your mentee that you're making clear communication. Watch their body language to make sure they've received the information you've given them. Ask and make sure that they've heard you. And, just a clear, confident voice when you're on the phone as well. Write out a script if that's going to be helpful to you. But work hard to make sure that the words you're saying are clear and understandable to the student. Repeat communication when necessary. I talked about that. Repetition is the mother of learning. So, telling the student again, and I will just tell you this, you may tell a student the same thing 4 or 5 or 6 times, and it might start to bother you or annoy you that you have to repeat this so many times. We just never know where that student is at and how that information might land. And maybe it needs to be given in a certain moment to have it stick in their mind. And that's okay. Your job is just to continue to share. This is what the information is. This is what the information is. And we will ride the developmental process with that student because eventually, right when the moment is right, oftentimes they say, okay, now I get it. Now I understand. But it takes sometimes a long time and repeating the information before it really sinks in. So just be mindful that's how it works. That's how mentoring works. And then presentation skills are going to be helpful for a lot of you in your role, even if you're not one of the first year peer mentors, but maybe you're leading an event and you need to talk and share up in front of the event about things and lead the group. Be mindful of developing those skills as well. All right, so those are some of the expectations, the 7 things, characteristics that we're really looking for you to develop. They're things we looked for when we hired you. They're things we're going to be very focused on as we continue to train you and seek to develop you as a mentor. There are a few things to remember about the expectations that we have for you. One thing I mentioned briefly was maintaining confidentiality. So you will now be exposed, hear, see, and notice private and personal information from students. Above all else, this is a new space you're in now as a student leader. You have signed a confidentiality agreement form, and you must keep these things to yourself. So you might see people's grades, GPAs. You might be privy to situations that they were involved in that might relate to our office, and you must maintain confidentiality. That's a very important part of your role here in first year experience. Um, Also, you are committing to, as a peer mentor, as a student leader in our office, to showing up, following through on the things you say you're going to follow through on. If you volunteer to come for open house, unless you're, sick and not able to get out of bed, then please come. Please follow through on your commitments, the things that you say you're going to do. And then own your work. Feel proud of the work you do. Put the time in that is necessary to do a great job in the projects that you're given. And I think if you do that, then your work will be what we're hoping for. You won't have to worry. Also, be really mindful that you are a positive representative of Salem State. So we're not asking you to be inauthentic. I know each of you have had wonderful shining moments with Salem State and challenging moments. All of us have, even as staff. But be mindful with first year students that maybe your challenging moment isn't going to be a part of their journey. They're not going to have that same challenging moment. So we don't need to push that onto the student. So staying positive in ways that are authentic is important. Think of the things you really love about this community and about Salem State, and lean into those when you're describing your experience. Um, yeah. So additional things. This information has been indicated at our staff kickoff. I want to clarify it again here. It's also on our Canvas page, but our undergraduate training, additional in-person training is on Friday, September 12th from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. This is an ECC Underground. It is going to be very, very important. This is a required training for all of you participating, whether you're a PC, whether you're an OA, whether you're a, program coordinator, anything else, or a mentor, anything else. In that training, these are some of the things we're going to be discussing. You're going to get some more specific information about your role, about your schedule, office etiquette, what is our dress code, those kinds of things are things we're going to talk out at that training. So please make sure you mark your calendar for September 12th from 4:30 to 8:30. A mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside of yourself. I love that. Just helping people see that the answers are there, and we're just kind of guiding you to understanding that reality. So, quick recap. Peer mentor characteristics are those who are role models to their peers, particularly our first year students. They are people who demonstrate a sense of care to all others, but particularly those that we're working for and working to support. Knowledge of campus resources, and that's information we'll continue to give you, but have your ears open, have your eyes open as you're trying to gain that information. People who are proactive about problem solving and not just saying, I don't know, go over there, I don't know the answer, right? But being able to help and go the extra mile. We're looking for you to be collaborative and helpful with others in the staff, that you're practicing and honing those good listening skills. That you're actively listening when you're listening to our students who come in, when you're listening to your mentees, that you have great communication skills and you're continuing to work on those as well. And of course, you're maintaining your confidentiality, you're keeping your commitment to this job, you've committed to this job, and in a lot of cases, you're building relationships with students. It's really difficult to transition out of a relationship like that after, you know, in March or something. So try to keep this job the whole time. Commit to the commitment that you've made. And then that you're a positive representation of Salem State is very important to us as we do. And we have Kaylee and Nicole at our open house events. And many of you who are returners know those are big events for us. We have a lot of fun with open house and accepted students day. If you have any questions about any of this content, please reach out to your direct supervisor or me. If you're not totally sure who your direct supervisor is, that's fine. Or Matthew or Damien or Carolyn or Lindsay. All of us are available, happy to answer any questions you have. And you can now take the one question quiz on the Canvas page. I believe that's set up for you. So it was great to connect with you all. We are so looking forward to having you here in the fall, and I hope the rest of your summer is going real well. Thanks.